Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Email and Coffee with Joy Brooks. I'm Joy Brooks. Today, I'm speaking with Maria Platusik, a branding design, and website strategist. Did I get that right? Maria, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I am a brand strategist, branding designer, and I like to say WordPress magic maker just because it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds pretty
Yeah, so I basically help entrepreneurs, small business owners, and small mid-sized business owners create long-lasting brands from the start, with brand strategy first, then designing their logos second, and then implementation third. So with everything else they require moving forward to help them have a fluid brand from start to whenever that finish line hits. But yeah, that's essentially what I do in a nutshell.
That's pretty cool stuff. And my lawnmower just arrived. So if anybody hears grass growing or getting cut, that's the way it goes. It's summertime. Welcome to Long Island. So, as it's an announcement to some extent, I'm going through Rebrand, and that's how I met Maria. And it's quite a bit of a, some sort of a revelation, evolution, when you're sitting around thinking about your brand and going to yourself, something's not right. I don't know what it is. I'll wait till next Tuesday. And you're constantly thinking about your brand. What are the top 3 signs that you need to rebrand?
That's a great question. And that's one that most people know they should pay attention to, but kind of push it off, like you said, till next Tuesday. But I'll share with you the top ones. So the first one is that a lot of my clients don't like to admit to is that they're embarrassed to showcase or share their brand. So if someone asks, can I see your website, or let me see your business card, or pass me your business card, or let me take a look at your social profiles, and you're kind of hesitant to share it, or you're not proud to share it. It's one of those things that when that happens, you're like, oh, my website's still in progress, or it's under construction, but you can see my work here, or something like that along those lines. What happens is you're not showing up all in your business. You're holding parts of it back. And that's a first impression that is hard to replicate after that occurs. And it's more along the lines of whether it's just not representing you best, it doesn't feel professional, or it simply just doesn't light you up anymore. You're not energized to like, yeah, take a look at my site, or here's my business card. You drop it down on the table. It's just you've lost those feelings of that excitement. And when you're holding parts of you back, that's a big tell that you need to kind of revisit that brand that you're hesitating to share it with everybody else.
I'm guilty as I raise my hand and pronounce the words guilty. One of the issues that I've had over time is that I decided to use a Tumblr site to manage my assets, and for a long time that's what they were, assets. It's almost like there was no strategy, and in many cases there's a mission, there's a goal, there's clearly a conversion, but the brand itself is a floating logo with a mission statement behind it. There's no strategy, right? And your website can, it can tell the signs. It can show people when they go to the website, there's a disconnect here. Like, see the brand, they go to the about, they go to the mission, they see your product, but there may be that, can your website have a subconscious? Yes, it's that subconscious thing that's not coming through. How do you work that with your clients? I mean, how do you get them to tell you what they can't tell you? What they can't put into words, because obviously they're having a problem with it on the website.
Yes, no, that's You know, that's a valid point. And it's one of those things where if it's evident, it shows up in a lot of ways, right? So again, it's that hesitation to say like, oh, my site's under construction, or here it is, but I know it might need a little bit reframing or reworking. For me, it's always about alignment. And when I can see the passion, I can see the years of experience, I can see the loads of talent that they have. But when that message, like when I have the conversation, when that message is not clear or brought to the forefront on their website, that's where the hindrance happens. And that's kind of how I relay the message. It's like, you know, you are essentially hiding your, 15, 20, whatever years of experience behind something that's not representing you in the best light. And that is definitely a hindrance to your business, to you, your personal brand, to all of the things, right? So when you explain it in that light, it shines a little differently, and they realize, okay, I see what you're saying there. So that's kind of one of the ways.
Right. How should a person, who's maybe 3 years into a website, and in 3 years, a business can really change. I mean, COVID happened and everybody changed. So you're 3 years into a business, and how do you take your own temperature? How do you do a self audit? I mean, you look at your site, and it's difficult for you to ask those questions because you can answer them, but someone else can't. So that, your prospects are looking at your website, you're essentially nurturing them behind the scenes. How do you know you're doing that? How do you, yeah.
Yeah, no, that one's great. So that's like where the analytics come into play. And if you're noticing people are, going to the sales page or visiting this one page and then falling off, or they're not necessarily clicking to get further into it, there is a misalignment there. It's not converting, right? So your work, like you're posting content, you're like, come to my website, they get to your website, and then it's not making them, whatever it is that your strategy is it to book a call? Is it to send me an email? Is it to download the thing? If they're not taking action, that's a good tell that there's something that is not in alignment when it comes to the website in the converting portion of it. So that's a good sign. It's website specific, is to definitely take a look at your analytics, and everybody has them, right? Like you can definitely, if you have Google Analytics, or there's like third-party ones that you can take a look at as well. Definitely check in with them. Do a check-in, whether it's monthly or quarterly, or at least semi-annually. Take a look and see what that data is actually showing you, and pay attention to it for sure.
So, what I'm hearing is, and now I do this with email, and I try to explain this to my customers. It's like, okay, you want to share information. That's wonderful. That's definitely a value added, but you have no way of knowing what they're doing with that information. So you send out an email with the whole kit and caboodle, no call to action, no behavior built in, so that you're able to identify, are they hot, cold, indifferent? What are they? So if you build a website without any of those call to actions,
Yes,
which identify, okay, they're somewhat interested in what I have to offer them. So if you build the website with a few of those, little mousetraps, and you check them. If nobody's clicking, and you're not getting any emails, if you're not getting any forms, if you're not getting any downloads, if you're not getting any of these, I mean, even before you go to Google, if you're not getting any of these, you've got a problem. Go to Google, and the analytics will tell you, oh, you've got some traffic. They're hitting the page. They're also bouncing off the page. So time for rebrand. It's difficult to come up with. It's difficult to come up with that brand strategy. I mean, somebody may think that their mission is a brand. Somebody may think that their product is a brand, and the product or service is closer to the brand than the mission is. But I mean, it's more of a combination of who you are, where you, I mean, it's a wild combination. How do you psychoanalyze a customer and get that concept going into them, so again, so that they can start thinking along those lines, and you can have a conversation with them and actually, you're their doctor. So, once they come to you and they say it's not working, make it work. How do you go about working that out with them, doctor?
I love that. Yes. So yes, here's the diagnosis and here's the prescription. It's a matter of when they say this isn't working. So I define this as truly understanding your target audience and what the language they use versus what you use, right? Because we all know our own tech talk and our specific lingo and our industry specific lingo. But how it shows up to them, it's uncovering the code and understanding, oh, okay, and this is actually will lead into the second common sign, which is if they say, you know what, I'm actually just not getting the right amount of sales. I want to increase the sales. I'm constantly attracting the wrong audience from the products and service I'm putting out there, and I'm attracting the wrong audience. And to me, that's the sign number 2. Okay. So when you are continuously attracting the wrong target audience, you in your mind, you have the ideal audience that you want to serve. And this is something that continues to happen. It's when you create a post or you put your content out there, you put an item for sale, the wrong people are paying attention. And this happens for a reason. And it's actually a you problem. You might think it's not you, what's the world going to? Why is it? It's absolutely a you problem. It's the messaging, it's the visuals, it's the vibe, it's the energy that you're emanating outwardly that is attracting that particular audience. So I can give you an example. So if you are a florist and you are looking to you want to do high-end luxury weddings or high corporate events, but you keep on bringing in and drawing in, let's say, low budget brides or couples, it's most evidently your visuals and your messaging and everything, the language you're using, the words that you're using, that you're putting out there, that's continuously attracting them, right? And you have to bring that back into alignment. And there's a couple of things that could happen that could have caused it to happen. Because let's say you first started out your florist shop and you started working with budget brides, because that's who you're like, I don't take on any business. Let's start working, right? So now you start growing your business and then the referrals kick in. Well, the referrals will kick in with those budget brides. Oh, she does an amazing work, or he does an amazing work and an amazing job, and they do such it for a low price, absolutely go to them. And that's how you continue to build up that momentum and that audience. And all of a sudden you're like, but wait, I got into this to attract the higher end. Well, here's the thing, the brand and messaging and all of the pieces that got you to where you're currently at won't get you to where you want to be. So if it's high-end luxury corporate events, that needs to be revisited, absolutely. Or else it's going to be very difficult to get there without doing some backwards steps and building that foundation out again properly.
Mm-hmm. That's a you problem or a me problem or the florist problem. Yeah, I would say that, the dream is, oh, let's start this. And if I get we'll start this and hopefully I'll get some people to recognize me, and your customers are X, you're hoping to get Y eventually. But you didn't build your website for Y, you built it for X. Correct. Or you built it for Y, and there's an issue with your, I'll call it lead gen, because you're only getting X still. So yes. Website might, you built the website, but it's only the word of mouth isn't out. You're not generating And you know, that's part of strategy. Okay, so now I've got this, you know, Mercedes Benz. I really want to show everybody that I'm up in the world. I'm not, you know, I'm not on a scooter anymore. But you're still talking to people with scooters.
Correct.
So you know, that's the next, that's not just the design, that's the strategy. So
Absolutely.
that's always difficult. It's truly difficult because sometimes people will build things and you know, I mean, blame it on the movie, build it and they will come. That's not true.
No.
You gotta work it. You gotta work it. And it you know, it takes time. It really does. It takes time to get the word out. Obviously, search engines are going to help you. So if you build everything into the site properly and a few of the right people Google the right things and get to the site and you get those higher end customers, then you will slowly begin, but you just can't rely on Google. You've got to work it.
Absolutely. Yes.
The digital world is a tool. It is not the way, or I should say the only way. It's a tool, you know, you have a screwdriver. That doesn't mean you're going to build a house.
Yes.
So you got a saw and wood, and you got to get all the pieces together. And then, you know, you got to have the talent. And so, you know, you can't take shortcuts. You can't.
Yes.
You can't. Not if you build one business.
Essentially, when you're building your brand, it's like what you said, it's all the gears and cogs turning together to basically build the brand. It's not one piece. It's not your logo. It's not just the website. It's not just what you're saying. It's all of the tools in the background working collectively together to emanate how you appear on the outside for everyone else. It's all of those facets working together. And if one of those pieces are out of alignment, it causes things to go out, in a disarray. Like it causes it to get out of alignment, right? And it just makes things not work in your favor. So it's always a good idea to revisit and take a look at and check to see if you're, working with the proper brand strategy to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, right? And I know brand strategy is one of those things that gets skipped over a lot or just like skimmed through, but not like everybody wants to get to the good part. Let's just look at the visuals, right? Let's create the brand, the logo. I got my product, I got my logo, let's rock and roll, right? And that's okay. Like I get that. That's how majority of all businesses start. And that's totally fine. It's just when you are looking to get to that next level and step onto that next platform or scale and grow, those same working mechanisms will not serve you in the same light, right? You have to revisit it and build it out properly to get to where you want to go.
For a large business, it's often not too much of a concern because a larger business is more willing. A larger business may have less of an ego at stake. So an entrepreneur, it's all about them, right? Large business is about a large business. So, you've got Nestle out there with a very large business. Obviously, the process is totally different than you have, when Gary Vayner, who's all about himself. And he's very invested in what his website is saying because it's his brand. He's the brand behind everything that goes on. When he changes, and he's changed, he's the wine guy. He was a bunch of different guys.
Yes.
And, he keeps changing. He keeps changing. Yes. But he works it. Now, people may not like him. People may love him. I just mentioned it because it's his brand and he does a bunch of different things and he works it. He works it hard and he has his own flavor. So the concept between, it's almost, it gets nichey. So, are you selling Nestle, a huge brand? Is it like wow everything. Nestle does everything. They got their hands in everything. Right?
Yeah.
Or is it, you know, a solopreneur who's really, this is what I do.
Yeah, for me, what I've noticed, because I've worked in corporate for a number of years and I've dealt with big, Fortune 500 companies, developing their ad campaigns and doing all of those things. The fundamentals actually still kind of remain the same. It's just how much money is spent on research and the demographics and the psychographics and truly doing the competitive analysis. Like, it's expanded beyond, like, they do their due diligence and their homework, and they invest quite a bit into and they have teams and teams to do the research, right? So it's just the scale of what is being done is much more vast. And then the target market segmenting that they have multiple target segments for each of their divisions of the big umbrella brand. But the fundamentals kind of still remain the same. And that's what I've noticed. And that's what I've enjoyed bringing to the table with my solopreneurs, with my small business owners, with my mid-sized business owners, is that here's what you actually need. Because I like to always joke and say, okay, you're not Pepsi, so you don't need to know the color of Sally's nail polish. That's irrelevant to you, right? But here's what you actually need to know about your target audience, right? And then diving into kind of those fundamentals of, okay, what are they struggling with? What are their pain points? Okay, yes, we can call on those, but better yet, what's their before look like? And what does their after look like? And what do they need to get to that after? And how are you the one to help them achieve it, right? So that's kind of breaking it down in the simpler terms of a small business owner and what they actually require. They still need to know their target audience. They still need to analyze their competition. They still need to understand their messaging and key selling points. They still need to hone in on their future goals, like where they aspire to be 2, 5, even 10 years from now, because that's like the target, the guide, the bullseye that we're aiming for through this whole strategic process. But then simplifying it for them and packaging it in a way that is palatable and makes sense for their business. Like, that's the key, right? I think that's the key. Whether it's a personal brand, a corporation, or a small to mid-sized business owner, the fundamentals still remain the same.
Yeah. I was just thinking to myself, getting a customer to focus can sometimes be challenging or problematic or impossible. And they come on board with a website and they may be, they may have a number of services or products that are spread across the board, and it may be difficult to get them to focus on a short-term goal, a long-term goal, and to fix the in-between so that the message on the website is clear. This is who this person is today. This is what they can do for you. This is what they have done. Get it all down. I mean, they may be so unfocused, and I'm not basically saying that they sell too many shoes. I'm saying, they do a website, they have shoes, and then they go off immediately, start talking about socks and pants, and they're not focused. They never filled out the shoes.
Yes.
So somebody goes to the website and they see shoes, and maybe the blog is talking about pants and socks, or I mean, it sounds a little odd, but if you're going into business, you're not a DSW, but going into business, you're like you've got shoes. It's a special specialty that you sell hiking shoes. You don't want to start talking about sneakers. You don't want to set it up so that you're already in focus. It sounds a little odd. The metaphor may not be working, but I know that I deal with a lot of email marketing people who want to do email marketing, and I come into it and I'm like, okay, here's your product base, here's your service. Let's think about these, and they're already off somewhere else, and I can't pull them back. Like, well, wait a minute, what, let's do a news. Well, what are you gonna, if you're, are you a news service? Is that what you're selling? Like, but everyone likes to hear about stuff. Of course they do. It's hard to get them to focus on really the conversion, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. No, and
The bottom line. So you want to sell shoes, or you want to sell news about shoes? What do you want to do?
that's a difficult one. And for me, it's funny, you mentioned like who you work with and things like that. For me, it's usually multifaceted serial entrepreneurs that have, lots of different passions as well. So for me, it's always about trying to create that focus, to trying to find that common denominator that can run through it all and keep the focus for them, but give them those branches, those other facets that fall into the categories, right? Like they flow, they make sense. They're not complete left field. That we can create this, like, so it's usually the umbrella brand that I need to create, and then all of those branches underneath, but they have to make sense. They have to conjoin together at some point. There's going to be that, web, golden thread that weaves it together. There's something that has to ground it. And when I try to explain to my clients, let's think about the focus, the key message that you want to portray to your clients. If you wanted to be referred to someone, if there was, let's say, an in search of post and someone's like, oh, when should someone jot Joy Brooks's name down? When should someone recommend you? That's when you can actually start to think, what is the main brand message that I want to be known for?
Yeah.
When someone's interacting with your website, when they're interacting with your social media pages, when they're interacting with anything that you put out there, what is the main message you want them to retain? And is it direct and clear and to the point? We're all multifaceted. We're all multi-talented. We have so many skills that we can share. But if you're going to sit there like a Swiss Army knife and say, I can do this, nothing's going to hit. Nothing's going to stick. But if you say, I'm a brand strategist and branding designer, then that's easily referable. That's easily retained, top of mind. Like if you think of why is a plumber or an accountant or a divorce lawyer, like why are these people easily referred? A local realtor, a local bake shop, why is it easy to refer them? Because you know exactly what they do and what they offer, and you can just share their name and their service instantly. But when we think of ourselves, we're like, oh, we're complicated. We can do so many things. We can do all of these things. You have to narrow down that, like find that amazingness, that special sauce that makes you you, that title, give them that title so that they can share it and use it and refer it easily. And then when you draw, it's opening the door. So that allows people to get in your door. And then once they're in your door, of course you can share everything else you're amazing at. Of course you can share all of those skills and talents. You don't have to put them to waste, but you need a way to draw them in and a way for them to remember you and retain it. That's like the positioning part of it for sure.
So, you need to compartmentalize.
Yes.
Digitally compartmentalize, and that's not easy to say, your assets so that somebody sitting down to the dinner of Joy Brooks, they know what to order, they know what they're eating, and they know what they're paying for.
Yes.
As opposed to, well, do you sell hot dogs? No. Okay, well, can I have a sandwich? No, I don't have sandwiches. Okay. Or people saying, oh, I would recommend Joy Brooks, but I don't know what the hell what service is. I know she's a great person. She really writes well, but has a podcast, but I have no idea what she does. That's hey, it happens. It really does. People do spend a lot of money on a website and they don't make it clear. And they might not recognize that it's time for a rebrand until they get over themselves. I spent $20,000 on a website. It should work. It should. It should. That doesn't mean it's going to.
That's true in saying that. And then, so when you say something like that, though, for me, I'm a little triggered because it's like, if someone's going to spend that much, the person on the other end should have broken down a lot for them, and pointed out a lot for them. Like for me, again, I will always highlight, I will not design just your logo if I don't have your strategy first. I will always need the data, because how would I know what your logo should feel like, look like, sound like, be like, all of those things, if I don't have the data of who it's for, why you're creating it, what's the purpose of it all, you know, the competition. Well, if the competition is, you know, all in one color schematic, okay, how do we stand out from them? Like there's so much that has to be done in the background before you can present that. So when it comes to a website, it's like, what's the strategy behind it, right?
Yes.
And what's the purpose behind it? And if they don't have those foundational pieces, that work needs to be done first before you make them a pretty website. Like that's just what needs to be done. So that's why I always dove into strategy, because I was hired to make things look great, and I can do that. Absolutely. I started off freelancing and did book publications and magazine designs and ad campaigns and marketing collateral, trade shows, you name it. I've done it all. But clients were coming to me and I'm like, hey, what's your call to action? Who's this for? And why are we creating this? And they're like, oh, and they didn't have those answers. So that's where I saw that gap. And I'm like, okay, I need to focus on strategy first. So then I'm not designing in the confines of a 2 and a 3.5 business card anymore. I need to create their strategy first.
That's pretty much a sign that you've got the wrong web developer.
Yes. Yeah, if they're not giving you the gist of it, right?
But I'd say that it's more common. You know, I'm not trying to beat up any web developers or agencies out there, but it's pretty common that they're working as a service and they may not specialize in brand strategy. They may not ask those hard questions. They may just say, you know, what are your web pages? Make sure you get your content for those pages. Let's get some images. And when you do that, we'll give you a draft. We'll give you, you know, 3 sessions on each page, and then we'll launch. I mean, they literally will do that. And that's a web developer. That's not a strategist. And it's important. It really is important that I really think that you work with a strategist and bounce your ideas off of them so that they can fine tune that. And yeah, go to, you know, use a developer that you're comfortable with, obviously. But it's almost you know, the same thing happens in email. It's sort of the it's a hum in the background. It's some noise, something's, you know, what somebody's trying to tell me something, but I don't know what it is, and you ignore it. And then you're launching, and you need to rebrand already. You know,
I've witnessed quite a few, like the common denominator was always, I wish I found you sooner, is a lot of the time, because, and I feel terrible because I know that they've either been burnt or they spent so much in something that they weren't ready yet for it. And that's another thing that I look for as well, is to make sure that the person is actually ready, that they have the passion behind what they're doing. They know kind of their future goals, like they know exactly where they want to be in 5 years, like they have that planned out. And when they have those goals and they have the passion and they have kind of like that data, that's when I can actually do the work and do the work in the right magic form. But if they don't have those goals, or they're like, I'm not certain that this is the direction I'm going to carry for the next while, then you just need the Band-Aid. Then you need the quick fix. And I'll recommend people who are like, you know, beginners or lower end, to just give them the quick fix to get them going and continue to make money.
A resume site. Here I am. It's a presence.
Yeah, and just get them to make the money that they want to make and need, when they're ready to truly invest, because now they know their clear direction, right?
Yeah.
And it's a process. It is a process. And that actually leads to number 3. It's when the products or services that you have initially started or built your business off of have changed, right? Like it's changed over time. Like what you initially were selling, you're actually not offering that. You've morphed so many times, and now you're offering a new product or service. I don't want to say the word pivot because that word's been like ghastly used, but when you have pivoted or changed your services over time, now it's something to take a look at, because what you've utilized as your brand, your website, all of the things in the past won't be representing you to where you're at right now. And to give an example of that one, let's say you were a coach and you provided one-to-one coaching and catered coaching to your clients and did weekly calls and all of those things, but now you're only wanting to offer masterminds or group programs, and removing essentially a lot of the one-to-one calls and that type of stuff. The messaging, the visuals, the branding, like all the supporting material you have out there will not reflect that pivot that you've made in your business, right?
Right.
Now you're switching gears and you're doing something new. That new messaging needs to be implemented. That new brand messaging needs to be out there in order to create that awareness. And the good news is, when you notice that you're embarrassed, or you notice that you're attracting the wrong audience, or you notice that you have pivoted from the services or products you've done, is that's actually the optimal time to rebrand, the
Right.
optimal time, because you have your future goals and focus. So that's kind of the good news behind it all.
Yeah, so you just don't stick up another service. You
Yes.
you think about, is there enough of a change here that the service, the product, whereby it was one-on-ones, and now you're doing, corporate group, right? It's not linear. It's not like, oh, I wonder if this person also does. No, they wouldn't think that. They would.
Yes.
Or they might, but you're not giving enough credibility to that corporate group that you want, this new session that you want to sell. So yeah, all of these things reminded me what I went through when I was considering the rebrand. And honestly, it was a complete disconnect. I mean, every time I went to the site, I was disconnected. I was like, oh, this writing is good, and here's another video, and oh, I had a thought to put this here. And I'm looking at it and thinking to myself, what are you doing? You're throwing stuff at the wall, woman. There's something, okay, well, I'll think about it next Tuesday. And I couldn't put it all together. And then one day, I'm like, wait a minute, I really do need a rebrand. That's what it is. I know in my mind, I need to focus that, organize that, and then display that organization so that somebody seeing it says, oh, she's got her ducks in a row. I think I'd like to have a conversation with her. Duh. So that's when that light bulb went off. And honestly, it doesn't go off instantaneously on year 5 of your business. It doesn't. It's a creeping feeling that, okay, I'll do it tomorrow type of a thing. And then tomorrow it becomes a wild realization. This is not working. The light bulb doesn't go on when I click the switch. I need to fix this. So, I'm in the dark, and so is everyone around me. So, I'd say it's a process for everyone. Even Nestle goes through a rebrand. I mean, if there's a controversy, I would say COVID changed everything, and not to labor COVID because everybody's sick and tired of it, but a change like that, and we are in changing times. A change like COVID, a change like an industry based on gas that's now changing, and everything is changing around it. how you present your product, how you ship your product, what your product's used with, what your services are used. I mean, everything around everything is changing. Those are the times we're in today. So it can happen quick. That change can happen in the background, and you may not come to terms with it. You know, here you're shipping a product and there was a margin that worked. Now with gas being so expensive, now that profit margin doesn't work anymore. Is your product too heavy? Is that an issue? Is it viable anymore? You know, it used to be fine, but now it's too heavy. I can't ship it. You know, it doesn't matter. I'm never going to make any money on this. You have to change. So not only do you have to change, and we're back to the you, it's your problem. Do you have to change? You've got to play that out on the web. You have to do that. You can't disappear off the web. You have to set yourself up. And sometimes, is there like an intermediate rebrand? Like, do you tell people I'm rebranding? You know, I have been telling some people that, but I have not made a big deal about advertising that I'm rebranding. I see people that do that. They're big enough and they want to let people know I'm rebranding something. You know, you know, this is an announcement that I'll be announcing something shortly.
Yeah, no, it's so with my clients, I always encourage, if you have an audience, definitely make them a part of the process. Because the key is, especially if you're like pivoting, so you're not going to be offering the same products you currently are offering. Now, maybe the audience, your target audience, will be changing as well. You can let them know. And those, let's say, for example, that are on your Instagram feed or whatever feed that you know, whichever platform you're on, you can make them aware of it and then make them a part of the process, make them a part of, so these are the types of services that I'm thinking of offering, or these are the types of new products I'm thinking of offering. What are your thoughts behind it? And get them to be excited about this new venture for you, get them to be proud and encouraging and like cheering you on in regards to it. And then those that really like know, like, trust you and want to continue to follow you will stay. And those that don't necessarily fit in that category anymore of where you're pivoting will actually go. And that's what you want to have to happen. You want to attract the right people and repel the ones that aren't a good fit. And making them a part of the rebranding process is definitely a great tool to do, because that way they're aware and they feel like they're involved in the process and they feel important, if you will. So you're inviting them in, because you have to understand your target audience is the epicenter of your business, right? Like they are the key piece, the key ingredient. Without them, you would not have a viable business if you didn't have people buying your stuff or whatever it is that you do. So treating them with that inclusion and making them a part of the process makes them feel truly important, like you care about them and you, in their opinion matters, right? So I think that it's always, you know, a good idea to kind of let people know that you are rebranding, that you are, you know, headed into a more refined direction or more direct target that you have in mind, and where you're planning on heading. Let them know those future aspirations so they can come along the journey with you. I think that's a great strategy.
It's sort of like positioning and repositioning yourself.
Yes.
You know, you have to position yourself because that's part of the focus.
Yes.
I mean, if you're, you know, if you don't know where you stand, you can't sell.
Absolutely.
So whether it's positioning yourself for the first time or repositioning yourself for the future, you know, new product release, or, you know, a brand new brand, you know, like I said before, when Gary Vaynerchuk rebranded, and he's not just a wine guy anymore, and he's not just, you know, doing that. He's not just crazy. He likes to curse a lot, Gary. He's, you know, he still likes to curse a lot, but now he's doing other things. So that position is an important place to emanate from. You know who you are, you know what you stand for. The people go to the website, they get your business card, they hear you speak, your social posts. It's all coming from your position. And that doesn't mean you can't talk about pets. That doesn't mean you can't talk about your vacation or what food you like. When you sell shoes, it means that you're aware of your position, and that strategy never, it does it make sense if I sell shoes that I'm talking politics? Maybe not. Maybe you want to, maybe you have a stand, and you have to think about your position and consider that. I know that that's a controversial topic for a lot of larger brands, where they
Yes.
come out and they stand behind, their position is to stand behind some political situation, some social position. And that's, that's a discussion for another day, but that's all about position.
Yes, so your positioning, you have to be very intentional and purposeful with it, right? Like your positioning is you want to occupy a certain space in the top of mind of your consumer. And what is like, how do you want them to, retain that information, and what parts of that information do you want them to retain, right? So there's a lot of ways to kind of position your brand to attract that ideal audience. And knowing your core values is always imperative when it comes to a lot of the decisions you make in your business. Your core values kind of are your beacon and guide. So you'll know what you want to reference to and what you don't want to reference to. So your core values are very essential in the strategic part of it. Again, I will always get back to your target audience, the epicenter. The part that you want to occupy in their mind is when you are writing your content or putting the information out there, you want your target audience to be nodding their head, like, yes, oh, okay, yes, that, like, it's like they're inside my head. They get exactly where I'm at. Like, I'm relating to this information. Absolutely. Like, you want them to already be nodding yes to what you're putting out there, so that the prospect, when eventually they're on a call, it makes that conversion so much easier. So you want to be able to relate on the empathetic level, the emotional level, the connection level, when you can base your core values and your target audience's core values are similar, that makes an easy transition to get to the empathy side, because now you're relating to them on a deeper intuitive level. So that's knowing your target audience, absolutely one way to help positioning. Your competition is another item that I know a lot of people, again, they skip over this one for fear of imposter syndrome. But when you can take a look at the playing field of what's available, like where, what the bucket is that you're working from, and this compartment that you're working from, it just brings a lot of things to light. Your competition and I invite you to take a look at your competition of where you aspire to be, like 2 to 5 years from now. That's the competition where I would love for you to take a look at. And when you do that, you're seeing someone who's emulating what you want to already be doing, and it just gives you proof. Oh, okay, they're doing it. It can be done. So now you have already told your brain that this is possible, right? And the other thing it does is it just helps with confidence. Like, you might think it's the opposite, but I witnessed confidence boost. So when I create a competitive analysis and I present it to my clients, and they see XYZ, and they're like, this person's doing this and only has X experience, and they're making how much money? Oh my goodness, I can 1000% do this, and I can charge way more than that. Like, it just immediately allows you to have that confidence boost. So it's really a valuable tool. Your competition is such a gold mine of information. And it allows you to align better with what you want to do in your processes. When you take a look at the competition, you see how they do something, or their process, or how they've worded something. You're like, I don't like the way they've done that. I would actually do it this way. This way makes more sense to me. So it guides you to more of what's the right fit for you, right? So the competition really helps with positioning you. And then the other thing is, if you see a gap, like, wow, they're doing great in sales, but their customer service is actually plummeting. Like they're not doing really well at customer service. I'll offer this and I'll make customer service my star. Now I have that little bit of advantage, right? Like you found the gap and now you're filling that gap. So there's so much valuable information you can grab from your competition. So they are definitely it's definitely an important part of the process when it comes to positioning your business and your brand.
You mean it's not sneaky to do that?
Nope. Nope.
It's
Nope.
discovery. It really is. I mean, you can't do anything without marketing analysis, and marketing analysis is about competitive analysis. So, if you're doing anything, you've got to know what you're up against. And then
Absolutely.
you've got to discover, obviously I'm unique, but I'm selling shoes. So what makes me different? What's the edge here? What's the point? Am I a shoe salesman that writes blogs about socks? Okay, I'm not focused. Obviously, my competition is going to say, hey, we got nothing worried about him over there. So yeah, you've got to, I joke about calling you a doctor, but it really is a very emotional process.
It is.
Yeah, rebrand. And there's a lot involved in it. Your ego becomes very involved in that, and that's even the ego of the brand, big brand, as opposed to the ego of the small solopreneur. It's the same ego.
Yep.
The same ego.
And even the ego of the designer. You have to put lots of those things aside. Absolutely. They have to have their own space and you have to put things aside.
Yeah, that is very true. Something in business that I've learned over time is, I have many opinions and many suggestions and recommendations, and they've all been, I've come to these conclusions over time through experience. That doesn't mean I can't still learn, because something that's so right that worked 15 times may not work the 16th. And you've got to be willing to hear that.
Yep.
Or sometimes you do need to bend like a reed in the wind. When you say, well, the site should be purple and absolutely not. Well, all the research says it should be purple. Absolutely not. I hate the color purple. You hate the color purple? Joke. I didn't mean that. That wasn't intentional, but it just happened.
Yeah.
Color purple? Okay, well, how about magenta? Oh, magenta's pinkish, right? Yeah, that works. Oh, okay. So it really wasn't that big of a fight. And you've got to be willing to bend to find out, because you may be saying something, you're not getting your point across, and they're hearing it as competitive or combative, combative.
Yes.
The more you say it, the more of a combat. And until you back off and you say, okay, well, how about this? What about this? They're like, oh yeah. And it's the same thing you just said 15 minutes ago, but you just said it in a different way. Or, you provided some options that still sort of bring you to the best practice, but you have to work with people. I'm sure your job is fascinating along those lines, because you work with a lot of people and they show you their underbelly immediately.
I have to be, so you learn a lot of things. So corporate helped me in a lot of ways because it gave me a really thick skin, like an outer shell. Because like corporate, it's just like, this is garbage, do it again. Like, what I mean? Like as a beginner, you have to just, okay. And they're just like, it's not garbage. They're just not in a good mood today or whatever it is, right? Like, it's just, you learn. And even going to school, and this is what I encourage, even if designers are going to listen to this, going to school, if you don't have your peers and the professors analyze and criticize and almost bring you to tears in regards to the work that you're displaying, you're not learning, you're not growing, right? And it's because of those, experiences that has allowed me to truly understand, color theory, space theory, object relationship theory, like all of these things, all of these tools that I can create with and understand with, and understand typography better and kerning and, all of these things. It's design is subjective. So that's where it's like, if there's a mathematical problem and here's a solution, that you can't debate that. You could, there might be 12 ways to solve it, but design is always subjective to the end user. And that is something that you have to deal with as a designer endlessly, right? But for me, it's having that open relationship, basing the design off the data and the facts is my strongest winning point. That's my arsenal. I'm basing it on the facts that you have provided to me, right? And when you're basing it, not just because I like the color pink or you like I'm basing it on this. And I ask people also about colors, if there's anything they absolutely attest to, I don't want them to hate their brand for the rest of eternity either. I want to compromise with them, right? And so I always ask them too, if there's anything they really don't want to see. That's also a question in my questionnaire. So I keep it open because it is working together. It's a personal thing. It is super personal. Egos are there and at the ready. And you have to kind of be able to touch upon it in a certain way. But if you base it on data and facts and have creative rationale behind the choices you're making, I think that makes the process so much easier for them. And majority of my clients are just like, they are happy with that I'm providing the rationale behind it, because that makes them, oh, okay, that's why it looks like that, or that's why it's created, right? And that's an important step of the process for sure.
When you mentioned, the hard lessons learned, those are the only ways that provide experience. You cannot make it through anything in life being told yes, yes, yes. You cannot. And it's difficult to hear somebody say, no, I don't like that. About anything that you do, share. No, I don't think your opinion is valid. No, I don't like the way that looks. No, the food is no good. No, but you can't. I mean, obviously you can say, well, that's only one person. But if you're a professional, you need to take everything into your thought process and consider how to mature, how to grow yourself, your brand, whatever it is. I mean, this is life in general.
Absolutely.
Yes. And a mistake is not a regret. A mistake is an experience. The regret is how you deal with it. So yes. You make a mistake and you spend 10 years mopping the floors with tears. That's the regret. That I spent 10 years crying over it. That's the regret. The mistake was not the regret. You just say, okay, I was in the right place at the right time, and I opened my mouth and I stuck my foot in it, and I know this now, and I won't do it. Lord help me again. Right? Then you move on. And you cringe a little bit when you think to yourself, you see the suit that you wore on the day that you did it, you're like, I hate that suit. Okay. So, but you move on. And if you can't do that, it really, in a business or in a personal life, it's the same thing. You're stuck. You're doing Groundhog Day, where, I bang my head against the wall and it hurts. I'll bang my head against the wall. Oh, it still hurts. Maybe tomorrow it won't. Can't do that.
No. And you know what? And just thinking about everything we were discussing in regards to your branding and the strategy and everything else, you will grow your business at the rate that feels comfortable to you, right? You always have control over that. And understanding that when you're first starting out, you wear all the hats, you do all of the things, right? Just because you're like, well, I want to learn this, I can do this, I'm capable of doing it. But at a certain point, you have to take the CEO ownership of your business, and what is not your specialty, what is not in your wheelhouse, what is not, the thing that you're amazing at. That's when you pass it on. Like, you take it and you pass it on. And I've done it in my business now. I'm like, how, I want to free up my time. How can I free up my time? Okay, well, I've done bookkeeping and my accounting. And can I do it? Yeah. Am I good at it? Yeah, I'm actually not bad at it. Do I want to do it? No, not any ounce of me wants to do it. So that was one of the first things I passed on to my bookkeeper. I'm like, here you go. Here you go. Have fun. And you have to know your numbers. You have to pay attention to them. You have to be on top of them. You don't just pass it on. But now I'm assured that someone else is handling that for my business. And I'm putting my CEO hat back on, and I get to focus on what will make me make money and make me move forward and make me scale, right? So thinking about your branding, it is a vital tool. It is a vital tool. And your brand is more than one piece. It's so many pieces, so many facets.
You are a doctor. No, because I would say that there are many people that will go to a web developer for a rebrand and will get a rebrand. That's a design rebrand. That's it. They, the developer may say, oh, I do strategy, because obviously, they just don't want to say they don't. If somebody says, oh, do you do strategy? Well, yeah. But, they may do design strategy, like you talked about kerning and white space, and, that's what they do, but they don't do brand strategy. And as you said, somebody who comes to you, who has a conversation with you, and if you get the feeling they're holding on to everything so tight, you may make the mention that, okay, we're doing this rebrand, but you do realize you got to let it go. You may mention that, doctor, and let it go. I mean, obviously you can't say you should let it go and I'm not going to work with you if you don't. Like, just this rebrand, it's becoming evident that, then we're moving in the next steps for the entire brand to get there. Here's what you may need to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me,
and they say, oh my God. Oh my God, help me. And, that's a conversation you may be having with some clients. It's possible.
I was going to say, for me, it's funny because when it comes to the clients I want to work with, they come to me already knowing that there's an issue with their branding, already knowing that there's an issue with their messaging, already knowing there's an issue with the pivots or the changes that they're doing in their business, and they need to get this done. And I love the spot that I'm at, because I don't have to necessarily deal with so much of the egos, like when I first started out, and so much of the combativeness, if you will, because the people are ready. The common word I hear all the time is, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm ready. And when I hear that, then I know that that's an aligned fit for me. And that's what people should be looking for in their client base too, is finding people who already need and want what you have to offer. And how can you find them on the journey so that they're perfectly aligned with you? And that's, that in itself can be your niche. It doesn't have to be an industry specific niche. It can be finding people who are aligned in the journey to where you are in your journey as well, and then helping each other out. So yeah, that's what I would suggest for sure.
Let me just tell you, that's a perfect way to end our little conversation. You couldn't have said it better. You couldn't have summed it up better. I certainly couldn't have. So have had a great time together. Thanks so much. I want to share some information about you with the audience. Where can they find you on the web, or, where should they look for you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I just loved how it ebbed and flowed into where we've ended up. Yeah, so you can find me at www.platusicdesign.com. That's PLATUSIC design.com. That's my website, or I'm at Platusic Design on Instagram or TikTok. And I think that's all of them, Facebook as well, Maria Platusek. So yeah, hit me up. My DMs are open, my email's open. Happy to answer any questions.
And you're also on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, I'm also on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Yes. So Maria Platusek on LinkedIn. Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much, Maria. Have a great day. And guess what, everybody? Email and Coffee's rebranding. That's my announcement.
Yay. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Maria. Take care now and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.